Hello everyone. Welcome to a new and amazing part of What If Deku Ran an Orphanage. This story is written by the amazing Kyodon. Please remember to support them. The link to the story is in the bio below. Remember to like, sub, and share the video around for more amazing stories. Now let's start this amazing story. If Yami had to describe his siblings' attitude, over the top would be accurate. After all, it was thanks to them that he was sitting on a throne with a crown on his head, receiving presents. Eri was first. She came up to Yami, holding a basket of apples with a bow on it. I grew these myself. I hope you like them. She gave the basket to Yami, and he set it on his lap. Then he took out an apple and took a big bite out of it. Yami took in the succulent taste of the apple. It was firm and juicy, as all apples should be. Delicious. Eri smiled, and happily walked off, letting Kay come up behind her, with something she was holding behind her back. I know you'll love my present. I put my heart, soul, and scales into it, Kay said, as she brought her hands in front of her and revealed her gift. A small and surprisingly well-made snake figurine. She handed it to Yami, who looked at it fondly. Cute. I knew it'd slither into your heart, Kay remarked, before going off to the side to allow Fu to come up next. Hey, didn't really know what to get you, so I thought I'd piggyback off of Kay's idea, Fu said as he revealed a small figurine, a wooden recreation of the wyvern. Cool, Yami said as he took the figure and put it next to Kay's. Thanks, Fu. Fu nodded and moved away so Sansan could present her gift. Here you go, Sansan sang as she presented Yami with a wide glass bowl, full of red and black crystal flowers. Tada! Yami took the bowl, almost dropping it for a second because of how heavy it was, before putting it on the table beside him. Pretty. Very pretty. Thank you. At the very least, he was getting a lot of new decorations. Next up was Shiruku. I know I give you clothes all the time, so this may not be super special, but I did try a little bit extra on this one. Shiruku then took out a red scarf with black patterns on it. Those patterns were the faces of his various Grimm. The Beowulf, the Wyvern, the Hound, etc. Yami took a close look at the scarf, and a small smile came to his face. I like it. I like it a lot. He immediately put on the new scarf, much to Shiruku's pleasure. I'm so glad you like it. I put my heart into it, Shiruku said as she stepped aside with a big smile on her face. After her, it was Otoko's turn. Otoko silently presented him with a pressed flower bookmark. Yami gave a nod of thanks as Otoko walked to the side, letting Kai stomp up to him. Happy birthday, big bro, Kai said as he lowered his head, revealing the present. A small necklace with one of his scales on it. If you wear this, then we can always be together, no matter what. Yami smiled again and took the necklace, putting it on under his scarf. Thank you, little brother, Kai smiled. Remember to always wear it. Okay. Yami nodded, petting Kai's head for a moment before Kai moved out of the way so the next person could give him a present. That person was none other than Netsu. All right, my turn, Netsu said as he came up to Yami with a canvas in his gloved hands. All right, take a look at this. Netsu revealed the painting. It was one of the paintings he'd made with his own fire. This one was probably his best work. It was a smoky black wolf-like figure that one might say bore a resemblance to a Beowulf. It was crude, yet cool-looking, and Yami would definitely be hanging this in his bedroom. Yami gave him the thumbs up, and Netsu fist-pumped the air in celebration. Next year I'll make you an even better one. Just you wait, Netsu shouted as he ran to the side, allowing Ken and Nara to come up, with Nara holding a gift box in her hand. So, we actually worked together to make you this, Nara said as she presented Yami the box. Yami took the box onto his lap and opened it up. And it was a small drawing pad, a hologram emitter. It's a specially made drawing device that'll help you when you're making Grimm, Nara said. You can write down what you want the Grimm to do, and there's an AI assistant that'll help improve your drawings. You can also save your drawings to a special archive, so you can look over all your designs whenever you want. All this, thanks to Upgrade and Gray Matter, Ken said proudly. Yami's eyes went wide, and his mouth opened with astonishment. This is amazing. This was probably the only gift he would get, with some actual practical use. No longer would he be stuck with his rough sketches and have to search through drawers full of different papers to look for one particular design. Thank you. Thank you very much, Yami said enthusiastically, carefully putting it back in the box to make sure it didn't break. Nara and Ken thoroughly satisfied by getting that kind of response from Yami, stepped aside with pride, letting Nise come up nervously behind her. Hey. So, I got you a pen," Nise said nervously, knowing it wasn't exactly the most inspired gift in the world. She handed him a black and red pen, and he put it to the side. "Thanks." Yami nodded, and Nise nervously moved to the side to let the next person come up. AKA came up next. "I also made a figure of my favorite of your creations, the hound." She presented him a small painted wooden figure of the hound, which Yami knew for a fact Izuku helped her with, but it was still pretty neat. "Thank you," Yami said, as AKA moved aside to let Sheena go next. "So, I can't really make anything, so I got you this." Sheena gave him a small slip of paper. Yami took the paper and saw what it said. "One free favor. Just give me that, and I'll do anything you ask," Sheena said nervously. "So, don't waste it." Yami didn't really like the idea of this gift, but he couldn't exactly refuse it, so he just put it in his pocket. "Thanks." Sheena then walked off, hoping everyone would just forget about everything that just happened. Next up was Alice, who had also been wearing her Yami birthday celebration outfit, which was a red and black dress, with fake grim heads all around it, as well as a top hat that looked like it had been melted or made out of Yami's grim goop. Alice walked up to him, took off her hat, and then revealed that the hat actually had another hat inside it. "Tada! Now we have matching hats." Yami took the hat and put it on. "Looks cool somehow." Alice beamed and skipped off to the side. Next up was Jin, who lazily strolled up to Yami with a black and red nightcap in hand. "Here you go. It's not super nice looking, but it's comfy." Yami nodded and put the nightcap on top of his other hat. "Thanks." Jin nodded and moved to go find a place to take a nap. That's when the triplets stepped up to the plate. "So we decided to work together to make you this present. Here it is," Yaba said as she revealed the present. A wolfskin hat. G found the world, I killed it, and Inu skinned it. Pretty cool, huh? Getting lots of hats. Yami thought to himself as he put the hat on top of his other hats. "Cool. Thank you." The girls looked pleased and walked off to the side to let Lu give him his present. "So, here." Lu tossed over a handmade wooden figure of the Phylong. "Don't make a big deal about it." Yami gave a nod of appreciation and Lu walked away to make way for the last gift giver, or rather, givers. Kiba, Kyoku, Yonda, Fuku, and Mu. Yonda was also holding the phone that Amai was FaceTiming on. "The six of us worked together to create this masterful gift," Kiba said as she took out a large book. "Take a look at this." She handed Yami the book, and he opened it up and found a wonderfully illustrated picture of his first time meeting Izuku. The playing catch with him part, and not the kidnapping part. On the same page was another illustration of him first calling Izuku Daddy. Then on the next page was him first trying steak, and then it was him naming his grim with Kiba and Fu. He started flipping through the book. He saw more passionately drawn images of important memories. Him going out into the city and meeting Amai, his cooking lessons with Fuku and Izuku. Him sitting down and coming up with grim ideas with the others. Even him helping everyone with game development. Me and Yonda came up with the idea, Kyoku, and Amai helped get all the moments we needed, and Mu and Fuku drew the whole book, Kiba explained proudly. "At first I was worried I wouldn't be able to get you anything good, but when they called me and asked me to tell them about the time we spent together, I knew you'd love it." Amai said, "So what do you think? Did we get it right? I really hope he likes it. I spent a whole night making that." Fuku thought as she forced herself not to appear tired. Yami didn't respond at first. He just spent a few more moments flipping through the book. After a couple minutes, Yami set down the book, hopped off the throne, and opened his arms. "Hug, all of you." They didn't need any further prompting, and almost everyone jumped onto Yami and initiated a massive group hug. "Oh." Yami smiled. "I love life." It was the final night of the Yami birthday celebration. All the guests had gone home, and now only the kids and the staff remained. Almost everyone was in the kitchen, enjoying some desserts they'd bought from Sato's parents' bakery. All except for the birthday boy himself, who was with his father up in his office, eating ice cream. "So, what did you think of your birthday?" Izuku asked as he watched his son happily eat up his dessert. "Fun," Yami responded with a mouth full of ice cream. "Lots of fun." Izuku smiled. "I'm glad. Honestly, I was worried about it since the decision to celebrate your birthday was so sudden. Speaking of which, I'm sorry again that I had to do this. I don't like having to decide your birthday as a strategic move. It's fine, Yami said, having had this conversation with his father quite a few times now. He was more than happy to be of help to his father, and it's not like they knew when his real birthday was anyway, nor did it make the celebration any worse. It was still fun. I was very happy. Yami had underestimated just how much he'd like a celebration based around him. Not for any self-absorbed reason. Although it did feel nice to be appreciated, no, the real reason was that he got to see how happy he made everyone. He'd made his family happy, and so they wanted to show how much that meant to them, and their feelings got through. If Yami were the type of person to get overly emotional, he might have cried when he got that book. Memories, Yami said out loud. I made good memories today. I have a lot of good memories. I want more. If Yami had to pinpoint the only parts of his birthday that he didn't like, it was that Niz and Shino were uncomfortable. He wanted to spend more time with them and get to know them, so that way next year, they would be able to fully enjoy themselves at his party. In fact, why stop there? Kiba and the others had said they'd make a second book next year, filled with all of the new memories he'd make. He wanted that book to be even bigger than this one. Way bigger. So he'd need to make all kinds of memories with everyone. But of course, the biggest obstacle to that was the villains. Not only would they try to take away his precious friends and siblings, as well as kill his dad, but they were also the reason they couldn't leave the Foundation ground. He hoped tomorrow would be the last day he'd have to worry about them. Well then, since things are winding down, I guess it's time I finally give you my present, Izuku said. Izuku stood up and went over to his desk, opening a drawer and pulling something out. Then he rose back up, revealing the gift. A small, extremely well-made statue of a Nevermore. This is what brought me to you, and you to me, Izuku said as he brought the statue to Yami. So it's only right that this be my gift to you for your first birthday at the Foundation. Yami smiled as he took the statue. It feels like a dream. My old life. I can relate, Izuku said with a smile. But in the end, I think that's a good thing. At least for the most part. Giving you all lives, so wonderful your old ones just feel like bad dreams. I'd say that's a sign that I'm doing my job well. Hopefully what happens tomorrow will just be yet another far-off bad dream in time. When are we going? Yami asked. Tonight. After dessert. I don't want to take any risks. Izuku said. We don't know at what time the attack will start, so I can't risk doing it early in the morning. It has to be tonight. Yami nodded. Okay, I think it will be hard to sleep. Izuku sighed. Definitely. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX away from the house. There they laid witness to a big surprise, with emphasis on the big. A whale grim, over half the length of their house, and wider than 3 football fields put together. It appeared to be half whale, half building, as it had doors and ramps on its sides. Next to it were a bunch of airships, which staff bots were loading their things onto. While many of the kids were in awe at the huge grim, others were concerned, seeing their things get taken away and loaded onto the ships, as they knew there was no way that could mean anything good. What on earth is this? Since when could Yami make creatures of this size? Kiba shouted out in shock and awe. This is thanks to the negative energy magnet that Dr. Akira designed, Mai explained, as she oversaw the robot's work. Thanks to that, we've been able to give Yami much more energy than he normally has access to. Hence, Monstra. This is where you'll be sleeping tonight, and where you'll be staying during the attack, Izuku said. Attack? Fu said. Izuku sighed, as he got ready to explain. Tomorrow, it's very likely that the villains are going to attack the Foundation. What? Shouted several of the kids in shock. Pretty much all of them except for Yami and Yonda, who knew of this ahead of time, and Fu, who was Fu. That's why you're all going to be inside Monstra tomorrow, away from all the fighting. Izuku told them. I'm going to hide you all up there inside the clouds, with all of our stuff hidden up there too. Unfortunately, I can't move you off the Foundation grounds without people noticing, but you should be safe. But just in case, I'm having Sai go up there to watch over all of you, and protect you if need be. But what if you need her? Nara asked. Shouldn't she be fighting down here? Unfortunately, my quirk won't be of any use down on the ground, Sai said. Once Kurogiri warps everyone in, we'll be activating an anti-warp generator, which will keep them from using any warp quirks. Unfortunately, it will also keep me from using my quirk. which is why I'll be up there with you. Wait, why don't we have one of those anti-warp things up with us? Netsu asked. Too big. Monstro wouldn't be able to fly with something like that inside it. Mai explained. We're still working on shrinking it, but unfortunately, we don't have any time. Our only hope is to hide you away. Unfortunately, the only place we can hide you is out of the generator's range. Hence the need for protection. What about you? Eri asked. Are you coming with us? Izuku gave her a sad smile. Unfortunately, that's not an option. I'll be the one leading the battle on the ground. Well, closer to the ground. I'm their main focus. If they don't know where I am during the battle, they're going to try to find me, which could lead them to finding you. And I can't allow that. But Ken was about to object, but Izuku cut him off. No buts. This has all already been planned out in advance, Izuku told them. And I have no intention of changing anything. So just get in the whale and sit tight. And what if they come for us? Lu asked. Then you fight. Izuku told them sternly. Those who can fight, protect those who can't. And just focus on survival. Sai will call me if anything happens. And if she doesn't call me every 20 minutes, or if she says you're under attack, I'll send reinforcements. So don't try and do anything stupid. Sai, I'm trusting you. Keep them all safe. Understood, sir, Sai said, giving him a bow before turning towards the children. Everyone, get in the whale. The kids started hesitantly moving towards Monstra, many giving worried looks at Izuku. And all Izuku could do was give them the most reassuring smile he could manage. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX sat at a round table. At the head of the table was the head of the family, Ruris Samwi aka King Cold, a large, muscled man in a suit. His skin was blue, and he had slick black hair, with two horns coming out the side of his head. He also possessed a lizard-like tail, coming out from above his butt. On his right side, his youngest and favorite son, Ryotoko Samwi, aka Frieza. He was much, much smaller than his father. In fact, he was pretty short in general and nowhere as masculine. His skin was bone white, and he had short blue hair. Much like his father, he also possessed a tail. Next was the former boss of the Cold Clan, Kairu Samwi, aka Chilled. He was a very short old man, about as tall as most children, and he had blue skin much like his son. Also like his son, he had horns and a tail, although his hair was orange rather than black. Finally, there was King Cold's eldest son, Quora Samwi, aka Cooler. Aside from his father, he was the tallest, a little above average height, although he had a rather lanky build. He had his father's blue skin and his brother's blue hair, as well as the longest tail out of all of them. "Ah, it's good to see you all again. Father, my sons," King Cold said to start the meeting. "As I'm sure all of you are aware of by now, we will be participating in the raid against the Midoriya Foundation. We'd be foolish not to. The resources and technology of the Midoriya Foundation should belong to none other than the Cold Clan." Chilled cackled. "Yes, which is why all of us will be participating in the attack ourselves," King Cold revealed, much to the surprise of his family. "What? Father, what is the point of having underlings if we have to dirty our hands with such labor?" Frieza objected. "I for one wholeheartedly agree with this decision." Cooler peeked up. "We can't afford to lose this opportunity because of incompetent underlings." Frieza scoffed. "Oh please, like anyone cares for your opinion, brother. And besides, that's very easy for you to say, considering your method of fighting is sitting back and piloting your little toys. Frieza, there are things one must do themselves if they wish to succeed." King Cold chided. "And besides, we won't be part of the normal troops. No, my dear friend all for one has seen through Midoriya's ploy. He's well aware of this attack and plans to take care of our forces while hiding away his children and resources. While he's distracted taking on the army we'll bring to his doorstep, all for one will search for where Midoriya is hiding them and send us to retrieve them, leaving everyone to die while we reap the rewards. That's my boy." Chilled cackled evilly. "Humph. Well, that's better than being among an army of insects, so I suppose I will lend you my aid." Frieza chuckled. "Do you hear, brother? Rejoice, once we get our hands on the Midoriya Foundation's technology, you won't be entirely useless." "Ah." Cooler grit his teeth, but stayed silent. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX as he worked on a small piece of technology with a tool in his hand. With the meeting over, Cooler returned to his lab and was now making sure everything would be ready for the big day. He heard the door to his lab open, but he didn't bother turning. He already knew who entered. "How was the meeting?" asked his cousin, Frost. Frost resembled Frieza quite a bit, with the only real difference being that he was slightly taller and his skin was blue. Aside from the usual embarrassment, quite well. Cooler sighed. "Father wants us to have more direct involvement with the raid like I wanted. And I didn't even need to humiliate myself by begging. How convenient. That means our plan is well on its way." Frost smirked. "I do hope Midoriya doesn't disappoint us." "I doubt it," Cooler said. "Midoriya's defenses will be fierce, I guarantee it. Which means we just need to do our part, and we'll have one." "And the others don't suspect us?" Frost asked. "Doubtful. And even if they do, they likely won't take us seriously enough for the plan to be affected," Cooler said. "Soon, Frost. Soon we will be the ones on top. Of course, after all, brains have always triumphed over brawn." Frost chuckled. Destro sighed as he looked over his troops. Over 100,000 people, made up of dozens of different criminal organizations and hundreds of non-affiliated villains, all held in one of his underground secret bases. It was a true army. "It's time," Karai told him. Destro took a deep breath. "Right." He stepped forwards towards the army. "Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. Today is the day, we the strong, take what rightfully belongs to us." Midoriya Izuku, weak and pathetic as he is, has given himself undeserved power by manipulating children and hoarding secrets not meant for him. But that ends today. We shall go to the Midoriya Foundation, take his secrets and the children. And then we shall show Midoriya his place in this world. "Yeah, hi," shouted the army. Destro clad himself in his quirk, turning into a giant hulking black beast before Kurogiri's portal opened behind him. "Now come, for the glory of the strong." Their leader charged through the portal, causing everyone else to run after him, running through the massive portal in massive numbers. And when they came out on the other side, they found themselves almost directly in front of the Midoriya house, although they could barely see it through the thick fog that encompassed the area. "Fog," Karai said, as her forces still gathered behind her. A few moments later, everyone had exited the portal, which closed behind them. "All our forces have arrived," Destro said, as he stared up at Midoriya's office. "Everyone, ATT-. Finally, to think that many of you would gather here." They suddenly heard Izuku's voice booming from above. How unfortunate. Then suddenly, the fog started to disperse. It was then that they saw it. A giant armada of blue and white airships, and in the center of them was an even larger ship with the name of the ship on the side. The Blue Typhoon. But that was just the beginning of the surprises. The ground shook, as suddenly, giant metal walls rose up far off in the distance, trapping them within the area of the Midoriya Foundation. "It's a trap," Karai shouted. "Welcome everyone. I'm afraid you've walked right into my trap." Izuku said over the speakers on the Blue Typhoon. "I will attempt to spare as many of you as possible, but I can't guarantee your lives. Surrender if you want. It might save you." "Grrrr. Midoriya." Destro shouted as he leaped towards the Blue Typhoon. The other ships around it tried shooting him down, but their energy shots did minimal damage to the villain as he got closer and closer to the main ship. And just when he was about to crash into it, suddenly, bam! A blue blur crashed into him from above, slamming him into the ground so hard it kicked up a massive cloud of dirt and dust. And when it died down, everyone could see who'd done it. Standing on top of the villain was Gamma 2. "Heh, did you really think we'd let you do that?" Gamma 2 mocked the villain as he stood on his back. "Get real. Initiate Phase 2, Izuku said. "Phase 2, Karai noted, realizing that meant Izuku's attack on them had already started. Suddenly the ground shook once more, as the sound of thousands of footsteps coming towards them could be heard from all around. Grims suddenly surrounded them, many flying up from the cover of the trees into the air, and others emerging from the forest, until they were surrounded from every conceivable angle by a sea of black. The Grimm started attacking the villains, with the flying ones picking up villains and carrying them off. Meanwhile, most of the villains just let them. A very small number of them tried to fight back against the Grimm, but the vast majority of them just stood around looking confused. "I can't fight back," shouted on the villains, before his chest was slashed open by a Beowulf. "Ack, something's wrong. Something's keeping them from fighting back," Karai noted as she dodged a griffin's grab and stabbed it in the neck. "I can still fight though. Maybe it's something in the air." And she was right. A big part of Phase 1 was the white sakura flower incense, which was being sprayed into the air via machines hidden in the ground. Using the white flowers that grew from Uchi's sakura tree, they were able to make an incense that, when breathed in, would completely stop any form of violence. Although that didn't apply to the Grimm. Thankfully, our masks blocked that out. But we need to move before we're all slaughtered, Karai thought, before pressing down on her earpiece. "Hirojiri, it's a trap. We need to get onto the airships above us." "Understood. Give me a moment to get an image," Hirojiri responded. A few moments later, he spoke again. "All right, I see them. Get ready, and I'll open the portals around you. And wait, something's wrong." "What? What's wrong?" Karai shouted, getting more and more nervous. "I can't open a portal in that area." "I can't open a portal anywhere around you," Hirojiri yelled out in shock. "This has never happened before. Something's blocking my quirk from working in that area. Midoriya must have done something. Activated some kind of machine. If you can destroy it, then maybe I can assist you." "Destroy it? We're surrounded by a force equal to or greater than ours, and most of our forces can't even fight back," Karai shouted. "How do you expect us to search around this ridiculously huge chunk of land and find something, especially when we have no idea where it might be or what it might look like?" "Then I'm sorry. I can't help you," Hirojiri said. "Damn it," Karai shouted as she dodged another attack from a Grimm. "Midoriya got us." Things seemed rather bleak for them. Flying villains attempted to get in the air, but they were either attacked by flying Grimm or shot down by the airships. "And Destro. Ack!" Destro shouted out in pain, as he was sent flying back from a punch sent by Gamma 2, and knocked on his back, as the android stayed in the air with his jet boots. "You know, for someone who preaches the strong should rule, you'd think you'd be stronger," Gamma 2 taunted cockily. "Why are you miserable, Dash?" Destro jumped back up and charged it too, only to get blasted in the side of the face by a giant red energy blast and knocked onto his side. That's when Gamma 1 flew down, holding his ray gun. Quit messing around too. This is a battlefield, not a stage. Can you really call this a battle?" Gamma 2 scoffed. "More like a massacre. Seriously, did these idiots think we wouldn't be prepared for this after the second time?" "Grr. Damn you." Destro said he tried to get up, only to get pelted by blasts from both androids. "Ack. Well, at least he's holding off those two," Karai muttered under her breath. No matter how she looked at this situation, she was screwed. Karai looked up at the blue typhoon. "The only hope we have is to get onto that ship. Guess it's time to put my training to the test. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX quirks. Eagle eyes. Basically, it allowed him to create an eagle and see through its eyes. Looks like Midoriya is just about done with us. And it seems his attention is completely on the battle. All for one noted. Well then, time to start looking for the real treasure. They're definitely not off the Foundation grounds, and I doubt he'd hide them on or below the ground. So let's try up. He wanted the eagle to fly upwards, high into the clouds, and started looking around. It took a few minutes, but eventually he found it. Hidden within the clouds was Monstra, surrounded by ships, and with Kai on top of it. Jackpot. All for one chuckled. Kurogiri, can you open portals at around these coordinates? Yes, master. It seems to be out of range of whatever device Midoriya is using to stop me from opening gates. Kurogiri said. Good. Then I believe it's time we started phase 2 of our plan. All for one said, with a sinister smile. I wonder how well your children will be guarded, Midoriya. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX goo, which gave Yami control of Monstra. From his perspective, it appeared like he was floating in a black void, with a giant tear in front of him, allowing him to see various parts inside Monstra, through sears in the walls. This meant when Kurogiri opened up a portal in one of the rooms, he immediately noticed. Out from the portal stepped the entire Cold clan. along with dozens of robot versions of Cooler. But not just them. After all for One sent a few of his own minions to join them. There was Tomura Shigaraki from the last attack. Then there was a blonde-haired girl in a school uniform. The villain is known as Toga Himiko. After that was a black-haired man, whose body was covered in burns and stitches. The villain called Dabi. In fact, strangely there were two of him. This was likely the work of another one of the intruders, a man in a black and white suit, called Twice. Then there was a masked villain, with white boots, a large yellow coat, and feathered top hat, holding a cane. This was Mr. Compress. And lastly, a large blonde man in a tank top. The infamous muscular intruders. Yami thought as he immediately signaled all the Grimm to pour into that area. Although he quickly had to rethink that decision, as more portals opened up all across the ship and more metal coolers popped out. So many of them. Grimm definitely won't hold them long. Yami thought. Have to tell the others. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX monstra. Without much to do, they all just talked to each other about whatever. What they would do once this was over, what shows they watched, etc. Suddenly, a seer came out of the floor, and Yami spoke. Intruders. A lot of them. What? Damn it. Sai growled, as she quickly picked up her phone. She attempted to call Izuku, only to find that her signal was being blocked. Darn it. I can't call your father. We'll have to fend for ourselves for a little while. All right. Yami, separate them and get information on their quirks. Everyone else, get ready. All the non-combatants get into the security chamber. Combatants, psych yourselves up. It's time for war. Father. I thought you said the insects would be down there. Frieza scoffed, as he glared at the squad, all for 1 cent, as they all emerged on Monstra. Hey, who you calling insects? Muscular growled, activating his quirk and getting ready to scrap there and then. Now, son. It would be rude to refuse all for one's request after he helped us so much. King Cold told him. Just put up with him for now. What charming personalities you both have. Dabi scoffed. It's so weird having there be 2 of me. The other Dabi said. I wonder if Kiba can see me already. Toga squealed. Oh, or maybe Yami. I can. Yami responded, his voice coming from the walls. Welcome. Now leave. And that's when Grimm flooded the room. Beowulfs, Ursa, and Griffins. Ah, what a wonderful welcome party. King Cold laughed. It seems Midoriya teaches his children well. Rah. Suddenly King Cold shouted, as he activated his quirk. Transformation. Suddenly he grew to double his already impressive size, becoming taller and bulkier, as well as stronger. Rah. King Cold smacked a Beowulf that had been charging at him aside, so hard that its head flew off. Not bad. Muscular shouted, as he activated his own quirk and crushed the heads of 2 Beowulfs. Humph. The Dabis immediately started burning groups of Grimm that got close to them, killing them instantly. It's been too long since I've gotten to have my fun. Chilled laughed, as he charged up his quirk, Psyblast, allowing him to make beams of explosive psychic energy. Chilled shot out a blast of energy, hitting a Grimm and exploding, killing it and everything around it. Try not to lose your composure, grandfather. It's most unbecoming, Frieza said, as he raised his finger and activated his quirk. Mind over matter, allowing him to turn his will into psychic power. Pew! He shot a purple beam of psychic energy out of his finger and right through the head of an Ursa. The villains easily disposed of the Grimm, but more and more just flooded the room. Suddenly, the floor around King Cold and Frieza became soft, and they fell through it into another room. Muscular said as he noticed the 2 vanishing. Then, suddenly arms came out of the side of the room and grabbed onto him. What the hell? The hands dragged him to the wall, and then dragged him through the wall, out of the room. He's trying to separate us. Tomura shouted. Thanks, Captain, obviously. Both Dabis said at the same time. Chilled was blasting more Grimm when suddenly, arms came from the ceiling and dragged him upwards. More arms came and grabbed onto Tomura, the Dabis, Compress, and Twice, trying to drag them in all sorts of different directions. The Dabis burned them off, Tomura dusted them, Compress turned them into marbles, and Twice cut them with his measuring tape. Just us, huh? Tomura said, as he looked at who he had left around him. Pretty much just his guys minus Muscular and Toga, and a bunch of metal coolers. Where the hell did Toga go? Must have snuck off. Compress said as he compressed some Grim that were coming at him. Impossible to keep track of her. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Where did the blonde girl go? Yami thought as he rapidly moved his seers around to try and figure out where she went. Not only did he lose her, but Frost as well. They seem to have just vanished. I can't find them. Can't separate them anymore. Yami frowned. Have no choice. Need to tell others. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX back, his body covered in wounds, at the hands of two androids. Man, this guy sure takes a beating. Gamma 2 remarked, floating up in the air alongside Gamma 1. Are you sure this is a villain and not a human punching bag? Damn you. Redestro sprang back to his feet and charged at them. The two Gammas dodged his punch, and then both kicked him in the face, sending him flying back once again, landing on his back. Let's just finish this already, Gamma 1 said, pulling out his blaster and filling it with energy from his fractal to charge it up. We don't have time to waste. I'm no match for them. At this rate, I'll be killed, without having done anything. Destro thought, as he deactivated his quirk and turned back into his normal form. I have no choice. I must kill them, even if it cost me my life. Destro then took out his secret weapon, something Karai had given him before the fight. A syringe filled with mutagen. Both the Gamma's eyes widened, as their scanners immediately picked up the mutagen. Gamma 1 quickly released the shot, but Destro poured all his power into one arm and used it to shield his body as he injected himself with the mutagen. Kaboom! The blast hit, covering the entire area in smoke and dust. Did you get him? Gamma 2 asked. We have scanners. Why are you shit? Gamma 1 cursed, as his scanners picked up that not only was Destro alive, his chaos energy was spiking. Rah! A monstrous shout was emitted from the cloud, as tendrils of black energy could be seen rising up. Midoriya. The cloud dispersed, and now they could see what had become of Destro. What they saw no longer resembles a man. Now it was just an amorphous mass of black goo, with a face that vaguely resembled Destro. Rah! The monster screamed as it sent out dozens of tendrils, right at the blue typhoon. Pew! 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 Both Gammas pulled out their blasters and started unloading energy blasts onto the tendrils, quickly destroying them. But that seemed to affect the monster very little, as he just sent out more. Gamma 1, Gamma 2. What just happened? Izuku asked over comms. The target gave himself mutagen and mutated, sir. Gamma 1 reported. My scanners indicate that there is no longer a physical body inside that thing. It's just a giant mass of solidified chaos energy. Can you destroy it? Izuku asked. Of course. We just need you to get back a bit. Kinda hard to kill the target when we have to focus on protecting you, Gamma 2 said as they continued blasting apart tendrils. Understood, Izuku said. Meanwhile, Izuku was sitting in the captain's chair in the center of the bridge. Around him were Sori, Tokoshi, and Giza. In front of him was Mai, operating the controls for the ship. Mai, get us out of range of that monster, Izuku ordered. Mai nodded. Understood dash. BRRR. 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 Suddenly, the entire ship was covered in flashing red lights as the alarms went off. Intruder alert. Intruder alert. What? Izuku shouted. Sir, the foot ninjas have made it onto the top of the ship. Mai reported. Grim is confronting them, but they're just moving past them. How did they get on the ship? Izuku asked the room. If I had to guess, they likely used the Grim. Giza speculated. The flying ones could be used as makeshift platforms if they timed it right, which it appears they did. Izuku groaned. Ninjas. It seems they've split up. Their leader is trying to get here, while the others are heading towards the engine room and med bay. Mai said, I guess that's what we get for putting signs everywhere. Izuku sighed as he rubbed his head. Sorry, Giza, go get rid of the ones heading towards the engine room and infirmary. Tokoshi, stay here and protect us, and get the fractal case. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX into a new room. How dare you touch me with such filthy hands? Calm down, Frieza. Composure yourself. King Cold ordered. First we have to. Swoop. Suddenly, Lu appeared behind Frieza, touching his tail, before immediately teleporting out and taking the villain with him. What? Cold gasped. But he had little time to contemplate what happened. Swoop. Cold heard the sound of Luke teleporting behind him and immediately batted him away with his tail before he could grab him. Ack! Lu shouted out in pain as his back hit the wall hard. Huh. Kiba came in with a high-speed flying kick aimed right at King Cold's face, only for him to grab her foot in the air, catching her. What a rude child, Cold said. Naughty children must be punished. Then he started crushing her foot, with his immense strength countering her high durability. Ah! Kiba screamed out in pain as she could feel her bones strain against the villain's power. That's when Kyodon's tendrils came in front behind and wrapped around his throat, while also rushing into his mouth. Ack! Grah! King Cold was surprised for a moment, letting go of Kiba before regaining his composure, biting down the tendrils in his mouth and crushing the tendrils around his throat, freeing himself. During this time, Lu had recovered and started charging an attack. Chaos Lance. He threw the energy bolt right at King Cold's face, causing him to fall to the ground. Bullseye fucker, Lu celebrated. Although his celebration was cut short, when King Cold picked himself up a second later, more pissed off than hurt, with only a few burn marks on his face to show he'd even been hit. Well, Brad, you've certainly managed to grab my attention. King Cold sneered. Let's hope you don't regret it. XXXXXXXXXXXXXX. TCH. How unpleasant. Chilled complained as he arrived in a new room. Although I must praise your ability to separate us, it will do you no good, child. Thwip. Suddenly a web shot down from the ceiling and covered his foot. Before Chilled even got the chance to do anything about the web, he heard the sound of something rushing toward him on his left. He quickly unleashed a blast of energy to his left, just in time to block the fire that was rushing towards him. On the other end of that flame were the Cerberus sisters, their arms locked together as they spat out flames from their mouths to try and burn Chilled to a crisp. Chilled and the girls were locked in a power struggle, as physic power fought against flames and slowly started to win out, as they pushed back more and more. Meanwhile, Shiruku was attempting to sneak up behind Chilled to attack him, but unfortunately, her footsteps were just a bit too loud. As soon as she got behind Chilled and got ready to strike, Chilled aimed his hand at her. Boom. Oh! Shiruku cried as she was blasted with a strong burst of energy and sent flying at the wall. Shiruku, Yaba shouted, stopping her fire spitting. Growling. That's it. You're fucking done, shorty. Rah! Suddenly, Yaba charged through the flames her sisters were shooting out and then started running through Chilled's attack as well, enduring the pain as her skin was torn off and her bones broke, while her regeneration fought to keep her alive. Chilled eyes widened with shock and fear. What in the AGH? Yaba jumped out of Chilled's attack and leapt right at the villain, using her claws to slash his eyes, before immediately collapsing from her injuries. You little shit. Chilled, unable to see due to his eyes being heavily damaged, but hearing where Yaba fell, he blasted that spot, sending Yaba flying back towards the direction of her sisters, who immediately ran over to check on her. Sis, Inu shouted out in horror as she looked at her now heavily injured sister. Her skin mostly peeled off, her eyes were burned, and blood was leaking out of many different parts of her. Damn it, Yaba, we're not immortal. Ji hissed as she and Inu crouched down to hug their sister, to maximize the power of their regeneration. I've had enough of you mutts. Chilled shouted out in rage as he brought his hands out in front of him and started charging up a ball of psychic energy. He couldn't see where they were exactly, but he knew their general direction, and that was all he needed. He raised his hands up over his head as the ball got bigger and bigger, radiating power as it grew. I'm going to turn you all to dust. Die you 50 dash. Thwip. Chilling was interrupted as Shiruku shot a web right at the energy ball. Kaboom. The ball exploded, hitting Chilled point blank, engulfing him in his own attack. When the flash died down, Chilled was lying on the floor, burnt, bruised, bleeding, and barely breathing. And that's what you get, Shiruka said, panting. Suddenly a seer came down, and Yami spoke. Are you okay? We're alive, Shiruku responded tiredly. Barely, Ji added. Suddenly, Nara zoomed in as XLR-8 and grabbed Yaba. All right, Let's get back to Eri and Sheena. Then all of you should take a break. Right? Everyone said. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX metal coolers march through the various different ships. It's not like Izuku just kept everything out in the open either. These ships were all guarded by tons of Grim, and as such it made it quite difficult for Cooler to find anything. Meanwhile, a group of his metal coolers were walking down the walls of Monstra, when suddenly, they encountered Netsu. "Hi, and goodbye," Netsu said, before immediately reducing all of them to liquid metal with a strong blast of flame. "Looks like these children are as powerful as expected," Cooler said with a smirk. "Good. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX looking grim. Probably not. One of the Dobbies said. We're not getting anywhere, Tomura said. I think Toga had the right idea. Wait. I hear footsteps, Compress said. All of them went quiet as they heard footsteps coming down the upper left hall. Immediately, both Dobbies flooded that hall with fire in an attempt to destroy whatever it was that was coming at them. After a few moments, they stopped their assault to see if whatever they were attacking was dead, only to see Ken as Heat Blast, standing there unharmed. Heh, not gonna be that easy, Ken gloated. Shing. Everyone jumped away from their spots, barely avoiding the barrage of swords that came down from the opposite hall. I'd suggest surrendering, Sai said as she appeared down the hall. The Davies tried to shoot fire at her. However, their fire was immediately pulled in the opposite direction and absorbed into Ken's body. Shit. Both Davies swore. Well, let's see you absorb this, Mr. Compress said as he threw a bunch of marbles at both Sai and Ken. The marbles expanded, turning into massive boulders, which blocked both entrances. That's not going to hold them for long, Tomura said. But I think I know what I need to do now. Tiger Claw was ready. His last mission at the Midoriya Foundation had been humiliating, but now he was prepared. He and his small group of foot ninjas followed the signs and headed straight through the doors to the engine room, only to find Protoman and two hounds waiting for them. Tiger Claw, Protoman said, aiming his cannon at him. If you recall, the last time you fought a single hound, it ended quite badly for you. Tiger Claw growled. Don't make assumptions. Then he pulled out a vial of trigger, and before they could stop him, he injected it into his neck. I'm not the same as before. Ah shit, Protoman cursed, as he opened fire and the hounds leapt forward. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Vera, who was pointing a minigun at the door. Could be worse. These ninjas are not as scary as not having enough money to eat and dying a slow death at hands of uncaring world, Vera remarked. You just made being killed by ninjas not sound so bad, and I can't tell if that's a good thing, Maria said. Suddenly, they started hearing sounds outside. Sounded like punching and grunts of pain. The sounds continued for a minute, before eventually, everything went silent. Then there was a knock on the door. Viridian, Giza said, saying the keyword. Vera lowered the minigun, and Maria breathed a sigh of relief as Sori and Giza opened the door and stepped in. How on earth did they get on? Maria asked them. They jumped, Giza said, half joking. Bunch on ninja nonsense. Don't worry about it. Sori said. Aside from these guys, there shouldn't be any more coming at you. Now we just gotta deal with the ones in the engine room and the one after the boss. But I'm sure he's fine. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Izuku watched the fight in the engine room with bated breath through his security monitor. The hounds and ninjas had already been taken out, so now it was just Protoman versus Tiger Claw. If this ship goes down, that could horribly turn the tide of the battle, Izuku thought as he watched Protoman block one of Tiger Claw's swings with his shield. I can't afford to let that happen. Shing. Suddenly a kunai shot out from the hallway and hit Izuku in the back, doing no damage thanks to his Aegis cloak. Another one was thrown at Mai, but thanks to her holding a force field fractal, it didn't hit. Izuku sighed. And now we have this. I wouldn't be so relaxed if I was you, Karai said as she entered the bridge. Underestimating a ninja has never been a good idea. Believe me, I'm not relaxed. I just have bigger concerns than you, Izuku said. Speaking of which, let's remove you from the board. Suddenly, the door to the bridge slammed down, trapping everyone inside. Tokoshi, Take care of her, Izuku ordered as he went to go stand beside Mai. At once, sir. Tokoshi faced Karai and cracked his knuckles. Young lady, I believe you've made a gross miscalculation. Huh. Karai transformed her arm into a snake and had it bite the old man's neck, only for its fangs to break on contact. Karai recalled her arm and turned it back to normal and fell to her knees. The snake's broken fangs translated to her hands having broken fingers. Tokoshi grabbed her by the throat and picked up, letting their eyes meet. As I said, a grave miscalculation. Suddenly, Karai turned her tongue into a snake, and while Tokoshi was talking, she forced the snake into his mouth and had it bite his tongue, injecting her potent venom into him. Karai recalled her tongue and turned it back to normal, as Tokoshi immediately lost his grip on her and fell to his knee. I told you, underestimating me is dangerous. Then it's a good thing we didn't, Izuku said, still not sounding threatened. Suddenly, a fractal slid down Tokoshi's sleeve into his hand, and he grabbed it, causing his body to be covered by a blue glow for a moment before it disappeared. Oh. Tokoshi gave a sigh of relief as he stood back up, no worse for wear. What? Karai shouted out in shock as she jumped back. That fractal is great for removing toxins and other harmful things from the body, Izuku explained. Did you forget you already paid a visit here? We knew about your quirk already, so naturally we took precautions against it. Why do you think I was so confident as to lock you in a room with us? Shit. Karai swore as she took out her sword, knowing damn well it was useless here. Tokoshi charged forward and attempted to hit Karai with a flurry of blows, but Karai easily dodged all of them. I could dodge him all day, but eventually, I'll get tired. Karai thought as she weaved more of Tokoshi's attacks. I need to find a way to defeat them. Time to improvise. Maybe I can use the windows. Karai jumped back and threw a kunai at the window, which bounced off harmlessly. Yeah, did think that would work. Karai at this point knew she wouldn't be getting out of this. Her options would be death or imprisonment, and by her pride as a member of the Foot, only the first one was really an option. Well, Midoriya, it looks like this is the end for me, Karai said, before she jumped over Tokoshi and ran at Izuku. She hit the force field generated by the fractal and stared right at Izuku. But I'm not going to die peacefully. Then she took off the front part of her armor and revealed a bomb hidden underneath, causing Izuku and Mai's eyes to widen. For the Foot, Karai shouted before pressing a button. Kaboom. Pew, 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 pew. The Gammas continued to unload energy shots on the mutated Redestro monster, but each they damaged it, it would just regenerate. Damn it. We'd need to charge up to kill this thing. Gamma 2 said. Right. Gamma 1 said. You distract it while I dash. Kaboom. Suddenly, everyone could see a massive explosion erupt from the bridge of the Blue Typhoon. Mr. Midoriya, shout Booth Gammas, looking away from Destro for a moment, long enough for him to shoot out a tendril and grab Gamma 1. Shit. Gamma 2 cursed as he quickly reacted and started shooting the tendril that was attacking 1, while 1 charged up a shot and blasted Destro with it, stunning him for a second. 2. Go check on Mr. Midoriya. I'll finish off this monster, Gamma 1 ordered. You sure about that? Gamma 2 asked. I'm sure, just go, Gamma 1 shouted, before charging right through Destro, coming out the other end and shooting him. Let's try this. Destro and his ideology are idiotic, and I hope he rots in hell. Raw. Redestro immediately turned to face Gamma 1 and started chasing after him. Looks like some part of him is still in there, Gamma 1 said as he started flying back to lead the monster away from the ship. XXXXXXXXXXXXX. Kaboom. Sai blew up the boulders that were in her way and made her way into the room. She immediately noticed 2 things. 1, there was a hole in the wall, and 2, one of the Dabis and Tomura was missing. The next moment, she had to jump out of the way as the remaining Dabi shot out flames at her. She activated her quirk, surrounding all the villains with portals and aiming portals at the boulder that was blocking Ken from entering. Kaboom. She destroyed the boulder while also shooting swords at the villains. Dabi tried to destroy as many of them as possible with his flames, but 1 stabbed his arm, injuring him and causing him to melt into a pile of mud. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Twice also tried to dodge all the swords, but there were just too many, and he eventually got hit in the face with a blunt sword, knocking him to the ground. where he was then smashed into the ground by more swords, into unconsciousness. Mr. Compress actually managed to dodge the swords, if only barely, and threw some marbles at Sai, which expanded into a bunch of bombs. Sai made a wall of swords in front of her, blocking the explosions and decreasing his space. "Hey, dodge this," Ken shouted as he unleashed a massive, room-filling flame blast right at Mr. Compress. He had no way of dodging, and all he could do was take the attack head-on. Ken quickly stopped the attack soon after it started, and when the flames died down, Mr. Compress was on the floor, burned and unconscious. "Is it done?" Sai asked on the other side of the wall of swords. "Yeah, they're all done," Ken said. "BRRR, BRRR, BRRR, BRRR." Ken was engulfed in a flash of red as he transformed back into his normal form. Kaboom! Sai blew a hole through the wall of swords and stepped through it, examining the downed villain before looking back at Ken. "All right, go back to Sheena and Eri and get your cooldown sorted. Then we continue. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX King Cold's feet, which was attempting to crush her. You are a strong child, but nowhere near strong enough. King Cold laughed cruelly as he continued to press down on Kiba, causing her to struggle even more. Fu's tendrils wrapped around his body and attempted to pull him off of her, but to no avail. Lu once again teleported over to him and attempted to grab his leg, so he could teleport him away, but Cold just smacked him away with his tail again. Suddenly, Cold moved back his foot and leaned forward, punching Kiba away when she didn't expect it. Then he turned and crushed the tendrils that were around him. Come now, children. Did you expect any of these pitiful attacks to even scratch me? Oh, then let's try this. Ahaha. Huh. King Cold turned around to see the source of the laughter, only to get clocked into the face by an aka controlled muscular. Cold was sent flying across the room, landing on his ass. What? HHH. Muscular/aka charged at Cold, and Cold barely managed to roll out of the way just as Muscular's fist went through the wall. Cold got to his feet and punched Muscular/aka in the face, causing them to slide back a bit, but they seemed mostly unfazed. Muscular/aka gave Cold an evil grin. Unfortunately for you, my puppets can't feel pain, which means I can have them fight until their bodies collapse into unmoving piles of meat. Ahaha. Growling. Let's see how long you can laugh, child. King Cold rushed forward and tried to punch Muscular/aka, only for them to grab his fist and then grab his other arm. Let me go, you insolent little dash. Scope. While King Cold was distracted by Muscular/aka, Lu teleported behind him, grabbed his leg, and then teleported all three of them out of Monstra and into the sky, where they proceeded to go into freefall. Huh. Suck it, loser, Lu said as he let go, and immediately teleported back to Monstra. Damn you, King Cold shouted as he plummeted down to earth. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Phew. Lu breathed a sigh of relief as he came back onto Monstra. Finally, he's gone, Fu said. Don't you think we should have kept that big villain that was under AKA's control? Just in case. Well, that giant lizard bastard was holding on to him the whole time, so I couldn't really just teleport one without the other, Lu explained. Come now. I think Lu did a wonderful job, Kiba praised, holding her head up high. And with the most powerful villains gone, surely we'll be able to defeat the rest easel dash. Pew. Suddenly, a purple beam flew in from the hallway and went right through Kiba's chest. Kiba groaned out as her pupils shrunk from the pain and fear, and blood started coming from her mouth. In the next moment, she collapsed on the floor, blood oozing from her mouth. Kiba, Lu shouted, as he and Fu went on high alert and looked in the direction that attack came from, only to see Frieza standing there. You? I teleported you out of here, how did you dash? Return. Frieza laughed. Why, it's simple. Unlike the rest of my family. Frieza then rose into the air, covered in a purple aura. I can fly, so I simply returned by flying back onto your whale. I have to say, you've impressed me quite a bit, taking me by surprise, and even managing to defeat my father. I see now why he insisted we do this mission ourselves. No Minons we could have sent would have been a match for you. Unfortunately, this is where it all comes to an end. To say that the battle against Frieza wasn't going well would be a bit of an understatement. Chaos Spear. Lu shouted as he threw out 5 energy spears at the Frieza, only for him to catch them and send them back at them, forcing Lu and Fu to try and dodge, only to get caught by Frieza's psychic power and held in place as the attack hit the two of them. Ack! Damn, that hurts. Lu growled as he felt the sting of his own attack. We're no match for him, Fu said, as the two of them were still trapped by Frieza's power holding them in place. Ack! If only I could take off my rings, Lu said as he tried to force his body to move, to no avail. Ho ho ho. My. It appears that the pointlessness of your efforts is now setting in. Frieza laughed. Seeing as my time is precious, I think I will give the mercy of ending this battle here and now. Frieza held up his finger, and a ball of purple energy formed above, getting bigger and bigger, until it was the size of his body. Try not to die from this. You're more valuable to me alive. Now, hiya. The villain threw the energy ball at the two, who were helpless, unable to do anything. It seemed like a sure hit. Until Ken suddenly dropped down from the ceiling in front of them, this time as feedback, and absorbed the attack completely. I don't think so, Shorty. Before Frieza could respond to that insult, suddenly he was surrounded by portals on all sides, and swords emerged from them. However, before they could fully launch out of the portal, Frieza stopped them all of his psychic powers, clogging the portals. Frieza looked behind him and saw Sai standing there, giving him a half glare as she closed the portals. Lovely, more insects to crush. I'm a arachnid. Suddenly Shiruku flew in from the side and punched Frieza right in the face, alarming him slightly and causing him to lose concentration for a moment, freeing Lu and Fu. Why, you little? Hiya! Frieza kicked Shiruku hard, using his quirk to augment his facial prowess and sending Shiruku flying through the wall. Before he could attack anyone else, however, Fu had snuck up behind him and wrapped his tendrils around his face. MHH. Frieza grunted under the tendrils, before immediately ripping them off his face, only to get an exploding sword to the face just a second later. Kaya! Frieza cried out, as he was sent flying into a wall, barely landing on his feet. All right, let's see how you like taste of your own medicine, Ken shouted, as he pointed his finger plugs at Frieza, and then shot out a massive blast of electricity right at him. Seeing the attack, Frieza scowled. There was only one option. For a brief moment, Frieza was covered in a golden glow, before he was then encompassed by Ken's attack, which exploded, creating a massive cloud of smoke. Got him, Ken celebrated. Don't get too happy, Fu warned him. Didn't go well last time. Either way, we need to get Kiba to Eri, Lu said, as he looked at where Kiba was supposed to be, only to find that she wasn't there. Wait, where's Kiba? Lu shouted as he looked around, not seeing Kiba anywhere. What? Sai's heart rate immediately spiked. A missing child was not good. Not that any of this was good, but that was even worse. Oh, I'd be far more concerned about yourselves right now, said Frieza's voice through the smoke, causing everyone to look back at the smoke. Through the smoke, they could see something. A figure wrapped in a golden glow, and as the smoke subsided, they saw Frieza, but different than he was before. His skin was now a radiant gold color, and they could feel power coming off of him. My, you truly are more formidable than I gave you credit for. To think you'd make me my golden form. Frieza laughed. Just so you know how doomed you are, I will provide you an explanation. Using my power, I filled my cells with psychic energy, activating them and allowing myself to use far more power than I would normally. It's a rather splendid transformation, don't you think? Now then, let the slaughter truly begin. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX for anyone in need of healing, who Nara would typically deliver to them. Although Eri was feeling a bit antsy, "Are you sure you shouldn't be out there, helping them?" Eri asked Gammy. Gammy shook their head. "We need healer. You can't control your power without me, so I have to stay here." Eri stayed silent. Yet another problem stemming from her not being able to control her powers. Maybe this battle would have been over already, if she could just control her quirk. Plop. Suddenly, the two girls heard footsteps coming towards them. Gammy quickly turned their hand into a scythe and stared down the main hall in front of them. "Those don't sound familiar." Then, Dabi and Tamura emerged from the hallway. "Well, looks like we found the hidden loot." Tomura said, as he looked right at Eri. So this is the girl behind the cure for cancer and the quirk-earsing bullets, Dabi said, as the two of them stepped into the room. Gammy stood in front of Eri protectively, only for them to suddenly transform back into Sheena. What? It's been 9 minutes already. Before she could do anything, she was suddenly swooped up from behind by Toga and had knife held to throat. Sheena, Eri, it's so nice to meet you in person. Toga greeted with her usual overly friendly tone, undercut by the fact that she was holding a knife to a child's throat. I've only seen you from far away on Lady Kiba's streams. I can't believe I get to meet you in person. Oh, look who finally shows herself, Tomura remarked. At least you're making yourself useful. Eri looked up at the three villains in horror as they started getting closer to her, and she activated her quirk. Stay back. Now, don't do anything you'd regret, Tomura said. Otherwise your friend is as good as dead. I would love to have a taste of her blood. I wonder what death tastes like, Toga remarked. The three villains walked right in front of her, looking down on her confidently. We know how your quirk works. Try and get any closer, and she dies, Tomura said. Just turn off your quirk and come quietly like a good girl. Eri looked at the three villains in front of her. This situation seemed hopeless. Sheena couldn't do anything without risk of getting her throat cut open, and she couldn't get close enough to activate her quirk. At least, that's what it seemed like. When Eri had activated her quirk, she knew there no way she would be able to get close enough to actually use it on them. Not with her stubby little legs. No, what she was actually doing was charging the Cessert weapon she'd been given. A broken fractal. Mai had given it to her last night, saying that if she charged it with enough energy from her quirk, the fractal would become unstable and explode, unleashing a blast of her power on whoever was close. Eri looked at Sheena with a determined, unwavering look, and Sheena returned that look, telling her that she understood. Crack. As soon as she heard the crack, Eri dropped the fractal on the ground, surpsing the villains long enough for Sheena to transform her hand and cut herself, one time, before the entire room was engulfed in light. Gamma 2 flew to the now wrecked deck of the Boo Typhoon and found that almost everything had been datoried. Off to the side, he saw Tokoshi, who had been mostly uninjured by the blast, attempting to wake up Izuku and Mai. Sir, please wake up, Tokoshi shouted as he tried to shake Izuku awake. Gamma 2 walked up to them and did scan to see how much damage had been done. Izuku's cloak had been datoried, and he had a minor concussion, along with a few bruises but nothing major. The same with Mai. She didn't have a cloak, but Izuku had shielded her from most of the blast, so her injuries weren't any worse. Oh, Izuku groaned, as he finally started to regain consciousness. Morning. Glad to see you're still alive, Gamma 2 greeted. Ugh. What oh? The bomb. Izuku grunted, as everything started coming back to him. I can't believe she was willing to die for something like this, ugh. Yeah well, crazy people do crazy things. Gamma 2 shrugged, as he helped Izuku to his feet. I'm just glad that explosion didn't kill anyone. Right. Izuku started looking around the bridge, his eyes eventually landing on what he was looking for. His phone, which was now in paces. Damn it. Any calls or signals from Monstra? Nope. None in my records, Gamma 2 said, going through his archives for signals and calls sent since the battle started. Which, now that I think about it, probably not a good thing since they're supposed to call every 20 minutes. Gamma 2, go check on the kids, Izuku ordered. Understood, Gamma 2 said, doing a brief salute before flying up towards Monstra. Tokoshi, get me to the communications room. I want to get my eyes back on the battle. Immediately, Izuku ordered sternly. And give me a status report on the engine room situation. If Protoman is free, I need him on Monstra. Yes, sir, Tokoshi said as he picked up Mai and carried her on his shoulder, before helping Izuku walk out of the bridge. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX who just smirked, raised his palm, and blasted them all away, with such force that one of them was sent flying back at Sai, causing her to lose concentration as she dodged it and making the portals vanish. Frieza then took this opening and shot out an energy blast at her, only for Ken to jump in the way and absorb it. "You're gonna need more than some fancy light show to beat us," Ken shouted. "Tell me, child, what is that device on your chest?" Frieza said, as his eyes landed on the Omnitrix. "Oh, it's called the None of Your Business." Ken snapped. "Very well, I'll just have to find out myself," Frieza said with a sinister smirk. "What the heck does that mean? H. Ken shouted out in pain, as Frieza used his psychic power to yank the Omnitrix right off his chest, taking some skin with it. In a flash of red, Ken turned back into his regular form, with some of his skin where the Omnitrix was ripped off. "Oh, ah!" Ken fell to the ground and clenched his wrist as pain overwhelmed him. "Pew!" Frieza shot a laser at Ken, but Sai opened a portal in front of him, which took the shot. "Yami, we need Nara here." "Now," Sai shouted to try and get Yami's attention. "We're not Nara, but we're here to help," Ji shouted as she and her sisters arrived through one of the hallways and quickly joined together to shoot out a wave of fire from their mouths, right to Frieza. Humph. Frieza simply raised a hand towards the fire and made it bend around. But before he could do anything more, Sai started shooting out swords at him again, and he raised his other hand to make the swords swerve around him. Keeping up the pressure, Fu started shooting out bones at him via his arm crossbow, hitting Frieza right in the face, not doing any damage, but annoying Frieza quite a bit. While this was going on, Lu took off his restriker rings and started charging up as much energy as he could. Chaos Lance Barrage. Chaos Lances, far more powerful than the ones he'd shot at King Cold, smacked into Frieza, causing him to wince each time one hit him. "Grrrr. Enough," Frieza shouted, as he surrounded himself in an intense golden light that just got brighter and brighter before blasting off of him, as a wave of energy that engulfed the entire room. When the glow died down, most of the room had been datered by the blast and was left a smoking ruin. Even worse, Ken and the Cerberus sisters, who'd been caught in the blast, were heavily damaged and rendered unconscious. Fu had also been caught in the blast and was left as little more than a pile of barely intact flesh that was in the process of putting itself back together. Shiroku had just managed to get out of the way in time, and both Sai and Sanson were nowhere to be seen. Schwab. Lu teleported back into the room, having teleported out to avoid Frieza's attack. "You insects have been giving me far too much trouble," Frieza snapped, seething at having been pushed this far. "I was attempting to leave you child and alive, only because All for One requested that we bring you with us alive. But now my patience has run dry." He aimed his palm at Fu's region-eating remands and preared an attack. Lu saw this and quickly teleported in front of Fu, knowing if Fu got hit by another blast, it would be his end. "This will be your end," Frieza shouted as he got ready to unleash the attack. "Die, PWM." Just before Frieza unleashed the attack, Shiroku shot a web line at his arm and yanked it away, moving it just enough for the attack to miss, smashing through one of the walls instead. Frieza glared at Shiroku. "Why, you little dash?" Then, suddenly, one of Sai's portals opened up behind Frieza, this one being large enough for a person to go through, and Sai's arm came up from inside it and grabbed Frieza by the throat, attempting to drag him in. "What? Let go of me," Frieza said, as he used his power to move Sai's arm from his neck. Then, Sanson burst out from the floor, where she had hidden from the blast, and punched Frieza into the portal with a massive fist, sending him through. Before the portal could close, Lu teleported over to it and jumped in, just as it shut. "Ugh!" Shiroku groaned, as she collapsed onto the ground from exhaustion. Suddenly, Nara rushed in as XLR8. "Sorry it took me so long. A lot. How? Oh my god, Ken. Oh my god, everyone. What happened here? We got hit by the world's strongest refrigerator." Shiroku groaned. "I hope those two can take him down in there before things get any worse." "Gah!" Frieza shouted as he stumbled out of the portal and onto a grassy field. "Those brats. Where am I?" "You're in my world." Frieza looked up and saw Sai standing a good distance away from him, looking down at from atop a hill. "I almost never use this," Sai said. She looked rather pale. Opening the portal she'd used to dodge Frieza's attack, and the one to take Frieza here, had drained her quite a bit. If this next attack didn't work, she was done. "But you've left me no choice." Then, from behind the hill, a dense swarm of swords rose up in the air. A collection of weapons so large it eclipsed the sky. "My full power. This is the power of unlimited blade works," Sai shouted as the swords rushed down at Frieza. "Don't get cocky," Frieza snarled, as he gathered up all his psionic power into one hand. I am Lord Frieza, the most powerful villain in history. And that's why? You will die by my hand. Pwium. Frieza shot out a massive purple beam from his hand, right at the swords, detonating them en masse and pushing through the wave of swords. Sai focused her swords into the area of the beam, stopping its progress as the beam tried to push through a never-ending stream of swords. The two struggled for a bit, as their attacks fought against each other to try and hit the other one. Sai could only focus on pushing back the beam. If she didn't concentrate fully on this, the beam would push through and annihilate her in an instant. But even still, this wasn't good. They couldn't stay here for long. Soon enough, they would automatically return to the real world. And if that happened before she finished Frieza, then they would be done for. Meanwhile, Frieza wasn't looking too good either. His veins were sticking out, and blood was oozing from his mouth as he could feel his power weakening. Forcibly activating one's cells had its drawback, mainly that it was immensely taxing. If he didn't end this fight soon, then his body would collapse. The struggle went on for a few more seconds, before Frieza noticed something. A bright, multicolored light, shining from behind him. What? He turned his head, and saw Lu standing a good distance behind him, holding a rainbow-colored spear of energy. Hey Frieza, Lu shouted. With what little energy he could muster, his body felt like it would collapse any second from the strain of charging this attack, but it would be worth it to end this prick. Eat this. Chaos Missile. Lu launched the attack that blitzed right towards Frieza, hitting him dead on. And the entire area exploded into a brilliant light. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX Monstra, although everyone else who'd been there had been taken away to Eri. Lu was passed out on the floor next to her, and Frieza in front of her, still conscious but back in his original form, covered in wounds and unable to move. And no, this cannot be, Frieza croaked. To be defeated by worms. Impossible. This is the Midoriya Foundation, said told him. Home to the impossible. Clearly, said a voice coming from behind them. Sai immediately jumped to her feet and looked behind her to find Frost, standing there, holding Kiba over his shoulder. Kiba, she stained herself, trying to open a portal, but failing. Her energy being thoroughly spent, she was forced down to one knee. It seems defeating my Kyojin took everything you had, Frost noted. Still, a rather impressive feat. Frost, be useful for once and kill these bugs, Frieza ordered. Of course, dear cousin, Frost said, as he brought his tail and aimed it at Sai's face. Sai saw a glint of light coming off something from his tail and barely noticed the needle hidden in it. She just managed to roll out of the way as Frost shot the needle out from his tail, which hit Frieza's shoulder instead. Ack, you fool. What have you dash? Frieza stopped, as suddenly, he started to feel strange. What is this, my power? It's returning. What? Sai shouted out in shock, as she quickly realized that she was meant to dodge that. While they were distracted, Frost threw down a smoke grenade and vanished. Damn it, Sai cursed. Frieza's body started to glow and change, but this time, his skin turned black instead of gold. Frieza rose back up to his feet, his wounds not boding him in the slightest. Oh yes, this power. It's unbelievable, Frieza shouted, as power exploded from him, creating a strong gust of wind that made Sai have to guard her face. Frieza quickly turned his attention to Sai and Lo. My, how the tables have turned. You'll pay for making me endure that humiliation. I'll make you beg for death. He raised his finger and aimed it at Lo. First I'll dispose of this little one, then the rest of them. Then I will allow you the sweet release of death. Frieza cackled as he charged up energy in his finger. Sai tried to do anything, open a portal, throw herself on top of Lu, anything. But her body wouldn't move. Bam! Suddenly, Gamma 2 flew through the wall and punched Frieza in the face, sending him flying through multiple walls, all the way until he crashed outside of Monstra. Hey, I just noticed a massive power spike on my scanners, so I thought you might be in trouble. Gamma 2 explained. Looks like I was right. Don't worry, I'll take care of this dash. Scum. Suddenly, he was blasted by a purple beam and sent flying out of Monstra. Then Frieza came barreling through the holes and followed Gamma 2. The two met in the air and stared each other down. "And who do you think you are?" Frieza asked through clenched teeth. Gamma 2 smirked. "I am Midoriya Foundation model number 002 of the Gamma series. But you can just call me Gamma 2. You see, I've got orders from the higher-ups to dispose of you as quickly as possible. Don't take it personally." Pew, pew, pew. Gamma 2 started shooting lasers at each other, while flying through the air, dodging as best as they could. "Well, this is getting me nowhere," Gamma 2 said as he holstered his blaster and charged at Frieza. "Hiya!" Frieza grabbed him with psychic powers, freezing him for a moment, before throwing him down towards the ground, and then flying after him. "TCH. Damn, he is way stronger than the files say he should be," Gamma 2 said while he tried to fight against Frieza's psychic hold, as he was hurtling towards the ground, to no avail. "Ah shit. Time to brace for impact." Slam. Gamma 2 hit the ground like a small meteor, causing the ground to shake as if an earthquake was happening, and a massive cloud of dirt and dust, as high as a building, exploded upwards. "Ugh. Am I sure glad I don't feel pain," Gamma 2 said as he pulled himself up, standing in a crater the size of a parking lot. Then he looked up and saw Frieza barreling down towards him, his body covered in energy. "Oh!" Gamma 2 barely managed to jump back, avoiding Frieza crashing into the ground, making the crater deeper and bigger. The android then rushed forward while Frieza was picking himself up and grabbed his tail. Then Gamma 2 picked Frieza up over his head and slammed him into the dirt as hard as possible, before repeating the process again and again. Grr! Frieza forced himself to stop in the air, keeping Gamma 2 from slamming him before flying up and shooting down beams from his hands. HAA. Gamma 2 flew up and started flying through the forest, while Frieza kept trying to blast him, and missed each time, destroying chunks of forest with each attack. While Gamma 2 was dodging the attack, he was charging up his blaster with energy from his fractals, and after half a minute of dodging, he flew up and aimed his blaster at Frieza. "Let's try this." Pew! Frieza used his psychic power to stop the blast before it hit him, but Gamma 2 flew behind him and kicked him in the back, sending him flying into the blast, which exploded on impact, creating a big cloud of smoke. "Heh, how do you like those apples?" Gamma 2 taunted at the smoke cloud. Then, from the smoke, a razor-sharp disc of purple energy flew out at Gamma 2. Whoa! Gamma 2 barely managed to duck in time, as the disc flew over her head. But then, the disc turned around and started flying back toward the android. "Aw crap! Aw crap! Aw crap!" Gamma 2 started flying away from the disc as fast as he could, moving around to try and lose it, but it would continue following him. Pew! 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 Gamma 2 tried shooting the disc, but it just cut his shots in half and kept chasing him. "Oh, that is so annoying." He started flying up, higher and higher, letting the disc get a bit closer before he turned around and started flying down, the disc continuing to follow him. Then when he got very close, he swerved and flew to the side, making the disc slam into the ground and explode. "Huh. Sucks to suck," Gamma 2 shouted out in celebration of finally having destroyed that stupid disc. "I wouldn't celebrate just yet." Gamma 2 looked up and saw Frieza holding up 2 of those purple energy discs, and immediately his face fell. "Oh, come on. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX on a half-formed feat that carried its mass at alarming speeds. All the while he was charging his blaster. "Hey, Gamma 1, you finished with that guy yet?" Gamma 2 said over comms. "Not yet. I need this attack to be at full power." Gamma 1 replied. "Well, could you hurry up? I've got a bit of a problem here." Gamma 2 shouted. "Stupid purple disc. Gah, that almost cut my arm off. Hurry up, 1. Gamma 1 sighed. Careless as ever. Zip. His blaster started glowing with energy, signifying it was at max power. "All right, time to finish this," Gamma 1 said, as he flew higher into the air and aimed his blaster at the monster. "Farewell. Catch him." Suddenly, a massive ball of energy exploded put for the blaster and hurtled down at Destro. The former leader shot out stress tendrils at it, but they were immediately burned away as soon as they touched the ball. The attack landed, hitting Destro dead on. Crack him. The blast exploded into a giant dome of energy, expanding out in all directions and eradicating anything it touched. After a minute, the blast died down, and Gamma 1 looked at the area to confirm the kill. The entire area had been reduced to a burnt wasteland. Nothing but charred black dirt remained. That, and some little bits of Destro's black mass that started to dissipate into the air. Me gasped what remained of Destro's face before it dissipated into nothing. Humph. Kill confirmed. Gamma 1 said as he holstered his gun. Now, let's see what Two's gotten himself into. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX. Tiger Claw took labored breaths as he stared down Protoman. Tiger Claw was covered in burns and cuts, and one of his eyes was gouged out and leaking blood. Protoman was covered in cuts that sparks were flying out off, and his shield was absolutely covered in claw marks. This battle was lost for you before it began, Protoman said. Surrender. I won't give you another chance. I'd soon die, Tiger Claw said as he got on all fours. But if I do, I'll take you with me. He leapt at Protoman, but as he got into the air, Giza grabbed his tail and threw him back towards the door. Tiger Claw landed on his back, right in front of Sori, who had her foot raised up. Good night. Slam. Sori slammed her foot down, right in his face, causing blood to explode out of his nose and mouth, knocking him out. What took you so long? Protoman said, as he lowered his cannon. Ninjas, lots of ninjas. Sori said, but that should be just about all of them. Protoman, come in. What is your status? Izuku asked over comms. Still battle-ready, sir. With minimal damage. Protoman reported. Then I need you to get onto Monstra. Immediately, Izuku said. I need you to make sure the children are okay, and report the situation. Understood. Protoman nodded before he was covered in light, as he teleported out. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX finally finished charging his blaster and aimed it at the disc before firing it at the disc, making an explosion that destroyed both of them. All right, Gamma 2 celebrated. Again, with the presumptuous pre-celebrations? Said Frisia's voice from behind him. Gamma 2 quickly turned around and aimed his gun at Frieza, only to once again get frozen by Frieza's psychic power. Damn it, this is getting old. You're right. Frieza laughed, as he used one hand to hold Gamma 2 in place and the other to form another purple disc. Honestly, Android, I should thank you for helping me test the limits of my new power. As a reward, I'll take your torn-up pieces to my brother and have him rebuild you, so that way you can follow a superior master. Gamma 2 tried to force himself to move against Frisia's power, but it was no use. Frieza moved the disc up and started bringing it towards Gamma 2's neck. Slowly, getting closer and closer and closer. Pow! Just before the disc could reach his neck, Gamma 1 flew in and punched Frieza in the face, sending him flying to the left and freeing Gamma 2, who immediately hit the bottom of the disc with his knee, sending it up before shooting the flat side of it and making it explode. Phew! About time you showed up, Gamma 2 responded. I was about to have my head lobbed off. Less talking, more fighting, Gamma 1 said as he pulled out his blaster and started shooting Frieza. Frieza put his arms up to guard against the blast that was pelting him before he flew upwards and started dodging them while firing some blasts of his own. The two Gammas moved aside to dodge the blasts before Gamma 2 flew in at Frieza once more. Gamma 2 threw a punch at Frieza, which Frieza caught, but then Gamma 2 blasted him point blank in the stomach, causing him to gasp in pain, giving Gamma 1 the opening to come in and kick him in the head, sending him flying. Frieza stopped himself mid-air, only to get kicked down by Gamma 2 from above, sending him crashing into the dirt and creating another crater in the forest. Gamma 2 charged down with a diving kick, and Frieza managed to flip away just in time to avoid it, but Gamma 2 immediately flew back, as Gamma 1 unleashed a charged blast right at Frieza. Kaboom! The blast created another huge blast of smoke and dirt, which an enraged Frieza instantly flew out of, rushing right at Gamma 1. Gamma 1 tried to move away, but Frieza froze him in place with his psychic powers and started forming another disc, when he found himself getting repeatedly shot in the face by blasts from Gamma 2, causing him to lose focus and release Gamma 1, who rushed forward and kicked Frieza in the face, sending him right back down to Earth. Geez, we sure are making a lot of craters, huh? Gamma 2 pointed out. Focus. Gamma 1 shouted as he aimed his blaster down at the crater, waiting for the dust to settle and visibility to be restored. But when the dust died down, all they saw was Frieza on his knees, coughing up blood. Ahak! Ack! Frieza felt all his limbs become far heavier as he returned to his base form once more, before collapsing completely. What's happening? Why can't I move? Looks like he's done. Gamma 2 said the androids descended down to the ground. Gamma 1 did a scan of Frieza's body. I see. You've gone well over your limits, and now you're paying the price. Your body's shutting down. You'll be dead in a minute. What? Frieza croaked through blood coming out of his mouth as he looked up at the Gammas with a desperate, fearful look. And no, please, help me. I can't die here. I am Dash. Boom. Gamma 1 blasted Frieza's head, causing it to blow up like a pumpkin, killing him instantly. That's the only help we can offer you, Gamma 1 said as he holstered his blaster. Whoa, little cold, don't you think, one? Gamma 2 asked. I mean, I get we're machines, but geez. He was already dead. Even if we wanted to get him to Eri for some reason, we wouldn't have made it, Gamma 1 explained, before looking up. Now let's get back up there and make sure everything is taken care of. Looks like the battle down here is over. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX main room inside Monstra to find everyone had gathered back there, already healed by Eri. In fact, he noticed a few new faces. A small white-haired boy, another young boy with black hair, and a little girl with blonde hair. All of them sleeping peacefully off to the side and tied up. "Hey, who are they?" Netsu asked, pointing to the three new kids. "Villains," Sai explained. "Or at least they were. We don't know if they still have their memories, or if they're just kids at the moment." Shum. Suddenly, Protoman teleported in. "What's the situation?" Sai looked at him with a grim face. XXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXXX nervously for his people to respond. "Sir, I have a report for what happened on Monstra," Protoman reported over the comms. "They were attacked by villains sent using Kurogiri's portals. Most of them are fine, and we have no casualties, but Kiba is missing. It's likely she was taken." A cold, paralyzing feeling overtook Izuku, and his breath was seized, as every part of him simply stopped after hearing that. Kiba was taken. Kiba was taken. Those words just kept repeating in Izuku's mind, over and over again. "Those bastards." Tokoshi growled, barely restraining himself from pounding on the console in rage. What's more, Eri used her quirk on 3 villains, turning them back into children, Protoman reported. Kyoku has confirmed that the children have lost all memories of anything past the point they were rewinded to. What's more, 2 of the children have been identified as Tuya Todoroki and Tenko Shimura. Tuya Todoroki? Wasn't he dead? Tokoshi asked. Apparently not, Protoman reported. "Sir, this Gamma 1. Gamma 1 reported over comms 2 of the ships were stolen, containing numerous fractals and 2 Choice emeralds." What? This just keeps getting worse. Tokoshi was starting to get overwhelmed just hearing this. He could imagine what Izuku was. "Initate clean up," Izuku said in a low voice. "I want everything back in order, as soon as possible. And once that's done, get everyone ready. We a girl to find, and a man to kill. All for One has taken his daughter, and so Izuku would assure he'd regret it, assuming he lived long enough to do so." And that's it for this video. But not for today. Another video will be uploaded later today, so don't you Awesome Blazers worry. See you then. Like, sub, and comment your thoughts. And don't forget to support the writer.